you got to remember that nobody cares. Nobody cares about you. And you, like, the biggest barrier for me to start just writing online is in my head, I have this thought of like, okay, every mean person from high school is just waiting online to just say, CJ, you're the dumbest person ever. And like, it's not true. Like, if you jump up and down and try to get people to listen, like, they're not going to at first. And like, that should actually make you feel okay about sharing. Like, that barrier isn't there that like everyone's just waiting to say how much you stink. Like, I just want to give people that confidence to start. And to your point, I think it's all around consistency. Like, for the last 4 years, I've sent an email every Tuesday at 7:22 a.m. Eastern. That is my earned time with my audience. I do not miss it because it's become a habit. And I think like half of life is literally just showing up. And it's also with building an audience online. Like, I flew middle seat red eye on Alaska Airlines last night to show up here. That was me showing up. But like, consistency is like, I think like the eighth wonder of the world in the sense that like it compounds over time. Like, so just start with something and it gets better.
Conversation on how firms and finance leaders can influence the market, stand out as industry voices, and position themselves at the forefront of innovation. The accounting and finance space is evolving very quickly. Firms and finance leaders that establish themselves as trusted voices, whether through content, thought leadership, digital presence, they're shaping how this market moves. Today, we have two experts who are doing just that. Jason Statz, a powerhouse in accounting content and community building. All right. And CJ Gustafson, no relation, a CFO who translates the finance world into actionable insights through his widely followed Mostly Metrics newsletter. Jason.
Thanks.
Let's start a round of introductions, if you'll go first.
My name's Jason Statz. If we haven't met, I used to run a firm. We had a team of about 40 in Oregon and started producing content online, thought leadership for folks that saw, I don't know, kind of a different flavor of running accounting firms. And now I just do media stuff and I run an online community and go to conferences and hang out with smart accountants.
Awesome. CJ?
I'm CJ. My name tag says influencer. I asked for it to say mini media mogul, but it didn't get through. No, by trade, I'm a venture-backed CFO, and I'm 3 weeks into being, I guess, an entrepreneur. So I went all in on the content stuff. It's very scary. But I come from an FP&A background, finance background, and I started writing a newsletter called Mostly Metrics about 4 years ago. I was at a hypergrowth software company, and I was really afraid I was going to forget everything I was learning. I realized that everybody I worked for had these playbooks, and I was like, I got to write this down so I have a playbook someday. And the internet is this funny place where there are a lot of fellow nerds out there, and you find each other, and one thing led to the other, and you either die a newsletter or live long enough to see yourself become a podcast. So now I have a podcast too. It's called Run the Numbers, and I enjoy all the finance stuff, so thanks for having me.
Awesome, of course. Thank you both for being here. All right, let's start the questions. Jason, accounting has historically been a behind-the-scenes profession, but now we're seeing a wave of accountants building an audience and influence. What has changed? Why is this happening now?
I think you've just got I don't know, you've kind of got like the first generation of entrepreneurs and thought leaders that are like truly investing and engaging in being online and connected with folks. I think you had different versions of community pre-internet, but now it's gotten so much easier to reach other people in such a contextual way. Like we've gone from, you know, if I want to run an accounting firm for a bunch of dentists pre-internet, that was going to council meetings and maybe serving the 3 or 4 dentists in town. And now it's like, well, if I can just make content that attracts this type of person, that becomes much more compelling and is a way better way to build a business. So it works for building accounting firms. I mean, it works for like building your peer network. Like it's kind of unlocked this level of collaboration that I don't think there's ever really been before, because it's gotten easier to find like-minded folks that you can kind of jam with.
Awesome. Yeah, it's been awesome witnessing the accounting community kind of evolve over the years, going from more instances of competition to now collaboration. It seems to be the common trend or theme. CJ, as a CFO, your audience is a little bit different. Some overlap, but a mix of finance professionals, startup founders, investors. Why do you think finance leaders are so eager for insights in this space?
So I was joking with somebody the other day, and they were one of my siblings' friends who was graduating from college with a finance degree. And I was saying to them, when I graduated, I had no idea that you could like do finance stuff at tech companies. I thought you had to either be an engineer or you had to do sales. Like there's a saying that you either build shit, sell shit, or you're bullshit. And I was like, damn, that's me. But like, I realized there's no playbook out there. There's no like manual that they give you. Like, this is a hyper growth software company. This is what ARR is. This is what CAC payback period is. And here's a list of questions that you're probably Googling 1,000 times and can't find it. And that was the core audience I went after. It was me. I was just trying to scratch my own itch and kind of write down what I was learning. And to your point, like I think people are much more open to sharing. Because like they realize there's enough for everybody to eat out there, which is something great about, I think, the environment that we all work in. It's growing every year. It's not like we work at a paper mill and there can only be so many of them. We all work in a space that's innovative and growing over time, and people are willing to share. So that's what I'm trying to lean into.
Love it. So next question is for both of you. Can you describe the power and implications of niche content and micro communities? How would you recommend building trust with this type of audience?
Yeah, I kind of spoiled this one with my last answer, didn't I? It's kind of like the golden age of being able to find very specific people and problems and all that, just because of the way that social media algorithms have developed. Like, followers don't really matter anymore. It's like every single post, every little thing that goes out into the wild, like TikTok super changed this. It is going to go to the person who has this incredibly specific interest. And it means we've got to like get past, vanity metrics and kind of doing numbers. Like that doesn't really matter anymore, because these days you can talk about such a specific thing and it can find folks in just like, incredibly nuanced ways. So going out and starting a new accounting firm from scratch now looks completely different, because you have such a big megaphone to find folks who are the perfect for what you're doing. And like, as far as I'm concerned, that's a huge opportunity for accounting firms, because the pains that you solve, like everybody's got the spectrum of these are my A clients, these are my D clients. My A clients, they pay through the nose with a big old smile on their face because I'm solving very painful problems for them. And wouldn't it be nice if my entire client list was those A clients? And like the opportunity of being able to go to a social media platform and find all the people that have those same problems to refresh that client list and get more specific than you've ever been before. Like that is just, it enables so many aspects of firm running. Unfortunately, it's just a lot of human things that stand between us and doing that, being comfortable putting ourselves out there, and the super cringe title, thanks, of influencer, because nobody wants to be that, right? But it's, from a business standpoint, it's a golden opportunity.
Your name tag says big time influencer though, so like that's a plus.
Did yours not say that?
No,
Oh,
I'm
weird.
Yeah, maybe next year.
I don't know.
But to piggyback on what you were saying, I think being in a niche is a moat, because you know your core audience better than anybody else, and you get to lean into the if you know then you knows, and that like hits people in a visceral way, like, oh, that's a problem that I'm going through, and you need to have those lived experiences in order to relate to them. I also just think that like the internet is like the last true democracy where you can write yourself into any room. Like I've been completely shocked by the people who have agreed to come on my podcast, like the CFOs of Monday.com and Klaviyo and all these other great companies like Calendly. And those people would have never picked up my phone call before. Like I couldn't get my dog or my mother-in-law to come on the podcast when I started it. And it's because I was writing stuff that they read and said, oh, wow, that's something I'm going through. Like, you get it. That's an earned secret. And I think everybody in this room has a certain ability based on what you've gone through with your clients to leverage those earned secrets and what some may think is a niche or overly specific. Like, when I explained to my mother, she has no idea what I do. But, like, to the people in this room and to the people I write to, it's very real to them.
Awesome. Jason, for accounting firms in this room that want to stand out, what are some of the most effective ways for them to build authority in this space?
When I think of authority, I think of like folks that have been around and shown up like consistently. To me, authority is like there's an element of what is the experience that like that's all built on top of, but we've also seen a lot of like ugly versions of authority where it could definitely be framed in a way that isn't particularly constructive for folks. I think getting to that perception is a much more, it's about both. It's the technical stuff, but it's also like very, very human. So like building a following online is at the end of the day kind of just about being helpful and like remembering that there's actual real people on the other side of it. And it's not about like formats and trying to beat the system and all of that. Like you can definitely do numbers on social in a very depersonalized way, but ultimately to have impact, it's about like, who am I meeting? Like, am I making friends? Am I willing to slide into the DMs and like hop on a call with somebody? Like it is a very personal thing. And I think if you look at the folks right now who most people would call the accounting influencers that have audiences on social media and have built a lot of trust, like they're just grinders. Like they will hop on a Zoom call with a total stranger to talk through like this technical thing. And like there's just a different appetite and willingness to be collaborative and be helpful to other people. Like I think that's, there's a version of thought leadership that is like, I've done something harder or more impressive than you or something you should aspire to. But there's also a version of influence that's like, I'm kind of just sharing what I'm doing. And I'm going to get a bunch of stuff wrong and I'm going to get some of it right. But by helping the folks who, like you said, are a few years behind me, like just being willing to have that transparency and kind of be human. I think that's the least cringe version of it.
I think the cringiest part is when people are building audiences for the sake of building audiences. Like, there's nothing at the bottom of the funnel that they're trying to get them to. Like, 5 years ago, everybody wanted to sell you, like, a Google Chrome plugin. And I didn't know what the end game for that was. But, like, they're just building the audience. And I think, like, people make the mistake of also commenting and try to building an audience on things that they're not, like, domain experts in. To give you an example, like, Wiz sold to Google the other day. I was scrolling through my LinkedIn feed. And I think I was the only person who either didn't know the founders of Wiz or like didn't like assist on the deal based on what I was seeing. I was like, oh, yeah. I went to Starbucks on the way here, and the guy handed me a coffee. He's like, yeah, I make coffee for the guys at Wiz. I was like, wow, I'm really left out. But like, I don't understand sometimes why people build audiences like just for the sake of it. Like, I think you have to be more thoughtful about who your ICP is, and to what Jason was saying, like, can I actually help this person in a way where they're gonna value that? Sorry, I took it off script.
No worries. Hearing like serious themes of just authenticity and having a purpose behind it. CJ, you've gained a massive following among CFOs. What are some of the common mistakes that finance leaders make when trying to establish themselves as industry voices?
I think the first one is just being too surface level or like general, like describing like a formula. Okay, like that's step one, but like, what's the so what behind it? And the other thing is when people just want to tell you the news. I think telling the news is really cheap, like, but giving an insight behind it and then having a personality, if you can layer that on as well, can separate you. So I think that's my answer, yeah.
We'll accept that. All right, for both of you, where should firms and finance leaders start today? So thinking tactically, thinking short term, to grow their visibility. Can you share your perspective of the importance of community-driven content? What communities do you personally recommend? This is a lot of questions back to back. What communities do you personally recommend or find value in? And how should tech businesses like Ramp and their accounting finance partners collaborate on content to amplify their reach? Feel free to start with
Just
the first.
all those?
Yeah, just go.
all the way down the list?
Let's start with the first one. So, tactically, where should firms and finance leaders start today to grow their
Yeah,
visibility?
where to start? Quit thinking and just like be visible. Like there's so much over analyzing and thinking and wow, am I gonna optimize this and that? And it's like the reality is it's more about just showing up and getting your first 100 really crappy reps out of the way so that the 101st one is maybe a little bit better. But if we just sit there for years and we think about it and we don't do anything, then you never grow. Like you never learn from it. I think a real trap is like, and accounting and finance people we're fundamentally wired to be like ROI focused. So like if this is going to be worth my time, I've got a thing on my desk right now and I'm pretty sure I'm clear on what I could get paid for spending the next hour on that. So then why would I come over here and write a Twitter thread or something like that, right? We're so ROI focused that you never make time for it when the opportunity we're trying to capture is like bigger than like our monkey brains can comprehend. It's like being able to make these connections and get into rooms and get into networks that we never could have imagined being in before. Like that's the payoff. I would argue, just as a human being, it's also a much more interesting way to go through life, to meet other like-minded people and like kind of be a lighthouse for the folks who are into the same things that you're into. But the biggest enemy is just overthinking it. Like if you post to, this is one thing I really kind of stress for people. Post to LinkedIn, and you know how slimy LinkedIn is. Like the bar is so low on the quality of the supply of content. It's all just this crap of like backslapping and look at this thing I did. Be helpful on LinkedIn for a year. Post every single day. And it doesn't have to be a novel, big brain thing, like post and be helpful. And then consider like the line graph of your personal developments and your network, all of that. The timeline for that person that posted every single day will be fundamentally different than that of the other person. Like we have made connections we never would have imagined making before. And then it's like, there's a connection after that, connection after that. It's like there's so many things over that next hill that we can't ourselves manifest into being. Like having that willingness to lean into the serendipity of just showing up and doing it, like that's the real opportunity.
Can you share your perspectives on the importance of community-driven content?
Oh wait, can I say one more thing?
Yes.
What he said, that was good.
Yeah, weigh in.
You got to remember that nobody cares. Nobody cares about you, and you like the biggest barrier for me to start just writing online is in my head. I have this thought of like, okay, every mean person from high school is just waiting online to just say, CJ, you're the dumbest person ever. And like, it's not true. Like, if you jump up and down and try to get people to listen, like, they're not going to at first. And like, that should actually make you feel okay about sharing. Like, that barrier isn't there that like everyone's just waiting to say how much you stink. Like, I just want to give people that confidence to start. And to your point, I think it's all around consistency. Like, for the last 4 years, I've sent an email every Tuesday at 7:22 a.m. Eastern. That is my earned time with my audience. I do not miss it because it's become a habit. And I think like half of life is literally just showing up. And it's also with building an audience online. Like, I flew middle seat red eye on Alaska Airlines last night to show up here. That was me showing up. But like, consistency is like, I think like the eighth wonder of the world in the sense that like it compounds over time. Like, so just start with something and it gets better.
Great. And then on the
middle seat red eye fights, that's not good advice. Like I don't know.
Yeah. Scrappy entrepreneur budget now.
All right, on the topic of community-driven content, can you all share your perspectives on this? And are there any communities that you personally recommend or find value in?
His community is really good.
My community is really good. There's different types of communities for different needs. So like Ryan Lozanis has a community for small firms that's very like, here's the formula. My community is more like, I'm gonna help you build a peer network because that was the biggest thing for me. Chad Davis has got an automation community. So it just depends on what you're looking for. I would say just kind of like having that awareness and an openness to, is there a fast track to me building a better network of peers that will solve some of the things I'm blocked on right now? Like that's the main thing I would look at. So like if my firm's like, how are we gonna lean into AI? Like find an automation AI community and put your champion in there. So it probably more comes down to what are your blockers right now, but increasingly there's a space for almost all of those sort of, I don't know, things that folks get stuck on where other human beings, like making those connections, can help them get over that.
I think you can also have a community in a less formal way. Like the idea of having like a Slack group or a Discord like scares me. Like I already know I'm not uniquely qualified to do that. I wouldn't enjoy it, but I like having dinner with groups of CFOs. So like I'm not even calling it anything, but like every other month I'm trying to get 20 CFOs together to have dinner. We get a couple of sponsors, so I don't have to pay for it. But like it's a great way to get people in a room, and it doesn't have like all these bells and whistles around it either. And like maybe someday it'll become something more formal, but I think like just testing it with a group of people that you enjoy being around, and honestly like the benefits of doing things like this is you can talk to people who are going through similar things. I remember when I became a CFO for the first time, it was the first time I wasn't reporting to a CFO, which is like a very meta thing to think about. But like I was reporting to a CEO who like didn't speak the same language I did. And then to have a community of people, like I said, just even like having dinner with them to be like, hey, have you ever been through this? Like that goes a long way, and I think informs like how you can get better at building something that people actually want to be a part of.
Well, it's great to be in person with people too and have that human connection.
Yeah, and I'm writing a post that like I'm titling it "I hate how great in real life is," because like I'm naturally like it's hard for finance people to get away from their computer or off the couch, but every time I go to something like this, I'm like, damn, that was awesome.
Yeah.
I got to do it again.
Yep. Just flying all over the world. Okay, when it comes to tech businesses like Ramp and the accounting and finance partners that they have, any tips or advice on how the two can collaborate together to amplify the reach of their content?
Make useful content. I mean, Ramp solves a lot of, I mean, that's the, like, if you're an accounting firm or an individual, like, that's how you attract folks to you, is like, what's the real world problem that Ramp actually solves? And if there's a place where like tech companies lose their sort of path in their advertising, it's like getting too technical and too falling in love with features and that sort of thing. When it's like, no, like the problem you're solving is freaking Mike won't submit his, you know, expense reimbursement stuff. You're telling me Ramp will let me auto lock his card? Like, hell yeah, where's that been? And in order to get accountants excited for that, a lot of times, like, I mean, the reason I have a business is because people trust something accountants trust something coming out of an accountant's mouth more than they trust it coming out of a big shiny tech company. So there's 100 ways you can cross that stuff over, and make truly useful stuff, like through the problems that Ramp solves and the resources that Ramp has to help folks create content. Like that seems like peanut butter and jelly.
Agreed. And from the tech side, like leveraging the community that you're building with your accounting partners, as you mentioned, and I totally agree with, like accountants want to hear from other accountants. Yeah. Finance pros want to hear from other finance pros. They don't want to hear from Brad at Ramp. They don't want to hear from salespeople. So being intentional and thoughtful from the tech partner side about leveraging that to expand reach. CJ?
Two things. First, like to be useful, you don't have to be super technical. I think people forget like the first step to getting someone to read something and use your content is to make it approachable. And we all work in technical fields where like it's actually on purpose that people try to make it complicated because it's like a barrier to entry. But if you can make it an on-ramp to people, no pun intended, like it's a lot more welcoming, and then people want to stick around. A lot of the stuff I write about, like the CFOs already know what it is, but like it's useful to brush up on like, oh, those are the levers of net dollar retention or something like that. Like they're smarter than me, but it's okay that they're reading something like that. And then you can do the 201, 301, 401 after that. And the other thing I was going to add is everybody in this room has some sort of proprietary first-party insight from the data you have, and use it in an anonymized way to make observations. But if you can take that and create some sort of visual with it, just to get tactical here, and then sprinkle in an opinion and an insight, like those three layers are like magic. But if you just go at it with one of those, it doesn't stick out from the rest. So I think like teaming up with a company like Ramp, who does have insights, and then to also do it through the voice of a person, like you were saying, not just like a logo, because you can't just have a relationship with a logo. Like I think that goes a long way.
I like the advice on leveraging like the data and showing the numbers, because that's truth and it eliminates a lot of like the fluff that can be commonplace. So great advice. All right, for both of you, you both spend a lot of time analyzing trends. What's coming next in finance content?
It's kind of never been a more, or I don't know, this is like the most overwhelming tech has ever been. I mean, I think folks have had app overwhelm and all that pretty much ever since sort of cloud stuff kicked off. And it's just accelerating. So it's, like I can tell you what I hope I see is much more grounded, like here's the stuff to actually pay attention to and what's really making a difference, because there's a lot of folks with a lot of incentives for AI companies to find success and sort of all these different things, and then there's folks that build a business just on the nature of the hype, whereas I think what we need right now is more, stuff's gonna change. Like I am incredibly bullish on AI, but people need that put through a very contextual lens for them, because all you see is the headlines that just have no context, or you go to a conference and you get like an external speaker who doesn't know anything about your industry, and they're like, yep, everything that you do is gonna change. It's gonna be totally different in about 18 months. And they're like, see you later. And you're like, what do I do with that? So like finding a very contextual version of that, I think is a big opportunity. If you remember what happened when cloud accounting and all that came around, who modernized all the SMBs and got them onto the new platforms? For some reason it was accountants. Like COVID relief, when all that came out, like who led the charge on that? For some reason it was the accountants. Like now we're going through a massive technological shift, and in all likelihood, like businesses are gonna be turning to us for a whole bunch of help. It's an opportunity for us to be advisors in something new that will also support our own businesses, because it seems to be coming one way or another.
There's the old adage that no CFO or accounting professional ever got fired for buying IBM. Like we're in an age now where it's a lot harder to point to what the IBM of what I'm not going to get fired by buying. And like a lot of what I look at is like the job of an advisor is to make the client look good with like their purchasing decisions, because that's what you're paying for. You're paying for advice and to make them look good at the end of the day. And I think like there's room for like with content like another Gartner, another Forrester that's more new age of like what people are using. And part of that trend is driven by a lot of the data being consolidated under the office of the CFO, right? So we used to just look backwards and look at financial results. Now we're expected to tell where the business is going with financial data, sales data, and product data. And with all those three coming together, like just knowing how to use an ERP isn't gonna like be enough anymore. And so I think like there are gonna be a lot of judgment calls around what systems to use and what's best of breed.
All right, shifting a bit, thinking about the best platforms for firms and finance professionals to focus on. Could you share kind of your approaches to this? There's LinkedIn, there's X, there's newsletters, all these different mediums. Any advice there?
I guess selfish plug. I just came out with a tech stack survey. So I asked the 65,000 people who read mostly metrics, what are the tools you use to get the job done? And I asked them by what's your employee range and what's your revenue range? So I got 1,035 responses across 18 different categories of what they use for each stage. So like if I'm at $25 million, this is my ERP, this is my expense management. If I'm at 100 million, Ramp did really well across the board, so nice job. This is what I use. But overall, like I think you have to also think about like the people you have in place to put any of these systems in. Like, you can't just drop a Ferrari into the room and be like, do you guys know how to drive this? You got to make sure that you have people who are willing to use the software, because like I can't count the number of like FP&A tool implementations I've seen go wrong just because like they buy it and it like, well, it works, it's a great tool, but they're like, nah, I'm using spreadsheets still.
Yeah, accountants don't do that. They're always excited about a new tool to do the job. No. Building a tech stack, I think it just comes down to talking with your peers. Like, figure that out through talking with your peers, similar firms. In terms of what platforms to look at for like reach and finding people and producing content, that sort of thing, the easy answer right now is LinkedIn. Honestly, what I would say on a more personal level is like your greatest competitive advantage as a professional is the thing that feels like work for everybody else but not for you. And I found as I started making videos that I just liked making dumb videos that like made me laugh. And I started publishing them and nobody watched them. And but for me, like that let me do that way longer than any other person reasonably would. So I published 2 videos a week for 18 months while running a $5 million practice. I had a 0, a 2, and a 4-year-old at the time. I was probably running from something, but I was having a great time. And now people watch my videos and they're like, wow, you're a natural. And I'm like, dude, I've just done it more than anybody else. Like that's like, I think we're kind of programmed almost from when we were kids for like, the fast kid's the fast kid and the big kid's the big kid. And that matters until you're like in your mid-20s, but the next 60 years, it's about who's putting in the reps. So the opportunity that you have is to like find the thing that you're into, because that's a gift. Like that's the thing that you can do harder than anybody else and you enjoy it. Like you're having fun, it's fulfilling. That could be having conversations. So maybe an interview podcast. That could be writing. Maybe that's a newsletter, blog, something like that. There's definitely some platforms that are better than others, but the world's big enough where you can win on any platform. So I would follow, like, what's the thing I'm passionate about that doesn't feel like work? Because I'm going to stick to that.
Great. AI and automation. How do you think this will impact things like finance, education, and thought leadership? It's okay to pass if you want to.
It's okay to pass.
All right, here we go.
Why don't you take this one, Brad?
So I think that there are 2 levers for AI, and they're used differently. So one is like the ability to reduce headcount. Like it's pretty obvious where some of those use cases are, like in customer support. But there are other areas where it just makes you more efficient overall. So like I made the dumb assumption when I was doing our operating model last year and we started to implement some AI stuff, that I'm like, oh, so we don't need as many engineers anymore, right? Like the pod ratio is going to go from like 5 to 3 and we need less QA. It's like, no. Well, like our code coverage is better, but you still need the same amount of people to run it. So the efficiency went up, but the headcount didn't go down. So like, I don't know where the puck is going, but I can see that there are 2 surface areas for AI. One is I need less people. Okay, cool, that's a cost reduction. And then the other one is I can get either more revenue or I can do something faster because of AI. And I think a lot of the changes too, everyone only uses examples that are like the 10x engineer, the 100x engineer. It's like, don't put that in your operating plan yet. Like maybe you get 30% if you're lucky, and that's great. Like we didn't have 30% last year. So I think like a lot of people are also getting over their skis with like the assumptions they're making of how fast you can run. I don't know, is that okay?
Yes. It's great. All right. In addition to Jason and CJ, there's many inspiring firms and finance leaders out there who've successfully established themselves. Are there any that you look up to in particular?
If you're on LinkedIn at all, like Chad Davis has been putting out such good stuff. He's the Canadian guy that drives around, as far as I can tell, in an RV with his family and has like a 50-person, 80-person firm. And he's a real tech nerd, which I suspect most of us in this room are. But he's super like at kind of the forefront of what's happening with AI and is one of those voices that is like a helpful, more balanced filter. He's doing a great job. I don't know, who else? Who would you point to?
So like when I got started, I noticed and really looked up to a lot of the VCs out there who were writing about stuff in the SaaS ecosystem, and I had this like imposter syndrome. I was like, I wanted to be a part of this, but do it from like the operator side of like the people who are actually like making the trains run on time. And so like the people I emulated when I started out or attempted to, because I still think like I look up to them, are like Tamaz Tongas, who's of Redpoint. He has a huge newsletter, like it's amazing. Alex Clayton of Meritech, and Kyle Poyer, who is at OpenView. And like I've gotten to know a lot of these people, which is cool because I've read them for years and years. But I guess the point there is like you can look up to someone who's not like a direct analog, and you can say, oh, I think that playbook could work over here or in a different voice. And like my all-time favorite writer is Bill Simmons, the sports guy. I'm from Boston originally. And I've always thought like, oh, that's cool. Like it's okay to be a fan of something and cover it as well. And I look at myself as like, I'm a fan of business, and that's okay. Like I'm not like the news or anything like that. And if you take that tone that you're comfortable with, I think you have a better chance of being consistent for longer.
All right, time for a Q&A. So people in the crowd, if you will take your phones out and scan the Slido, enter the code, and enter your questions, we can get things underway.
It's not working. What a cool room, by the way. Aren't we all just mega jealous of like this AV setup and man.
All right, question 1. Has anyone ever been fired for buying Ramp?
So they didn't tell me to say this, but when I became a CFO for the first time, I remember like one of the first questions the CEO asked me. He was like, "What tools should we get here?" And I knew like 2 people at Ramp who were like really nice to me, and I was like, "I think we should get Ramp." And then like a day later, I was like, "Shit, I really hope this works." But I did it. Like it went really well for 2.5 years, and I was joking with someone in the hallway. I think it was actually Eric, and I don't know if this is like the politically correct way to say this, but like it was the only finance tool in my stack that the rest of the company didn't hate. They loved it. They loved it. Like our head of data loved it. Our head of product loved it, and like they didn't complain to me. Like there were certain travel products that we used and other stuff where like people just complained to the finance person. I'm like, I'm sorry. But it worked really well for me. The company just got acquired in January. I instantly fired myself so I could do this. But now the company that acquired them is now replacing Concur and going to Ramp because of it.
Awesome. So it sounds like more promotions for buying Ramp than people getting fired. Next one, have you incorporated Gen AI into your content creation workflow? And if so, how?
Hell yeah. Man, so many places. So I've got 340 episodes of a podcast about running small accounting firms. It's super cool. And it's like a humongous body of context of pretty much everything that I think about how to run a firm. So you've got this sort of assistant that you can chat with, but I find most people, to get great use out of Gen AI, right now they're actually context blocked. That is, they haven't captured the way they feel about the world and all these different things. And if you think about training another human being, a lot of that is just the time you spend with them, like them sitting on meetings, that kind of contact, them learning that stuff. And it's like, I mean, it's a huge argument for, you know, AI meeting recorders and stuff like that. Like, however you can capture that context opens up some really cool possibilities, because once you've got those things recorded and you've got 100 of those things banked, it's like you can go to like a ChatGPT deep research and be like, help me build out like a framework for how I've advised clients over the last 3 months, or give my junior team access to, you know, when they're going through something with a client, and they're like, has this ever come up before? It sure has. Like, wouldn't it be nice to see how else we handled this? So I use it a ton in my content, from like rewriting something out of some content, like a podcast transcript or something like that. But it's kind of the same ways that I encourage firms to use it as well.
Yeah, I've interviewed, I think, 150 or 170 CFOs and finance leaders and investors at this point. And like sometimes when I'm doing the interview, I kind of black out. Like I don't like remember what I asked them or what they said back, just because I'm like really nervous about what the next question is. And like you get more comfortable over time being in the pocket and exchanging and stuff. But my producer, I pay him a little bit extra to give me a transcript on everything. So I've uploaded, which he probably is doing with AI now, and I'm just paying him. But I've uploaded all like 150 of those transcripts. Now when I sit down to write the newsletter, it's a nice network effect. I have a topic in mind. I say, hey, have I had a discussion around, I don't know, just to use like CAC payback period with anybody? And it's like, oh yeah, you discussed CAC payback period with the GoDaddy CFO and the Klaviyo CFO. I'm like, oh, I remember that. And so like being able to go through large amounts of data, and especially in written form, has been useful for me.
Yeah, if you guys want to go down this rabbit hole a little bit further, in my opinion, the sawdust of professional services firms is your meeting transcripts. Like, think about that. Like, think about the amount of value you're giving away that you're trading time for money on, by and large, these conversations, and most of us are not even capturing them. Like, those are so valuable. Like, that's the realization of your expertise. Consider how many applications there are for that, from productizing your expertise to helping your junior team to making your marketing department or marketing partners actually make stuff that is like in your voice, to have infinite ideas for how to create content. Like, that's the best thing language models, that's what they do best right now. Honestly, I think, is go long to short. Take something really big and really long and turn it into something more concise and useful for me.
What would you say to people who are afraid AI will replace accountants?
I think it emphasizes the human element, where like being you is a competitive differentiator. Like, I think at any point in any business, as you rise up, like sales is a big part of it. Human relationships are a big part of it. And I think everybody in this room has great clients because they like you. Like, they like your firm too, but they like working with you. And they could probably get someone to balance the books in a different country, or someone that they don't have a relationship with. But like, I don't know how you replace the trust aspect.
Yeah, I remember 10 years ago working at Xero when they came out with machine learning for bank reconciliation and coding transactions. And I remember there was a lot of talk around, well, is this going to replace what bookkeepers and accountants are doing? And what it actually did is it empowered them to kind of change what they were doing. It was more empowering and supplemental, and they could shift focus onto other service offerings that were higher value, and that was really cool to see. Jason, any thoughts from you?
That's a super cool take, but it will. There's going to be somebody sitting at a desk somewhere that does some very specific thing that AI will come in and do very, very well. I mean, RPA, it was the same thing. Somewhere you had a company where there was an entire floor of people that were processing this manual thing, and you could use RPA and it could get the job done. Like, that's how it's always been. Like, the spreadsheet did the same, the computer did the same. Like, I think it's the wrong conversation. It's like, it will change everything for sure, but we're going to be doing different things in all likelihood. So the only scenario where it's problematic is where I'm not paying attention to it and I'm surprised by it. So, like, as long as you're plugged into like what works and what are the best ways to apply this, like, I always tell accountants, we've got this imposter syndrome to be like, well, we're not AI experts. We can't talk about this stuff. We can't tell our clients about it. So you're gonna sit back and wait for a bunch of software engineers to tell your clients how AI impacts their accounting. It's like, just learn it, like get plugged into it. Like, that's the more actionable thing to talk about, is not, will it replace us? Because we don't have any control over that. Let's talk about, what are we gonna do over the next quarter to like upskill the entire team?
Well, I also think the question is like fundamentally wrong. It's not, will it replace me? It's like, how can it make me more valuable? Like, I really think that it's going to be possible for like a 10-person shop to do over $100 million in revenue as an accounting firm. Like I have a friend right now who's building with AI, and he's from an accounting background, and he wants to build something like that. And I think it's not like, is it going to take my job? It's like, can I make a lot more money using this because I can take on more client workload? Like what took 10 hours for a client each week is 2 hours. And I can give one of those hours still back to work on the relationship, but the rest of that, like, I can have a bigger book of business.
All right, next question. Do either or both of you use Ramp? And I know, CJ, you mentioned at your last company they did use Ramp.
Let me get the card out. I do. I'm a Ramp
right.
user. I've got my whole business on Ramp. Do you?
Yeah, my credit card, though, isn't metal. I'm looking for a metal one. I don't know if you can
Okay,
do that.
CJ needs an upgrade. Okay, how can
I didn't see anybody move or write anything down. I'm not sure.
All right, how can accounting and PE firms best partner together going forward?
Now that I think about it, at my last firm, we got the logos put on, and our bookkeeper got a way better credit card than mine. Like the logo was clearer, it was metal. It made a noise when you put it on the table. I'm just saying, I didn't know that there were different ones. So, sorry, what was the question?
We can get you a new one. How can accounting and PE firms, a lot of people in this audience, best partner together going forward?
It's a heck of a nut to crack. Man, getting accounts to change is hard. Oh, a lot of people here have lost a lot of years trying to get accountants to change. It's tough. I think you have to. Where it goes sideways is when you're very 10,000 foot view and you come in and you have a great idea and it's a killer slide deck, and then at the end of the day, it comes down to, can I actually get a bunch of humans to commit to this vision and the way that I want to get this thing done, and to bring this full circle to content, to influence, to people buying into the way that you view something. Like, to me, so what I do is I create useful content for small firm owners. I think it would be fascinating for somebody that did something like I did to do a roll-up, because they have a very common view for how to run accounting firms. And where this falls apart right now, I think, is when you come in with no context and a very specific viewpoint of here's how we can make it pencil out. They got a bunch of people that are just scared out of their minds and along for the ride. So somehow you've got to get all the way down to the bottom of the org and figure out how do I get all these people bought into this vision of doing this thing, and that comes through influence and being useful and transparent and all of those things. Whereas the other end of the spectrum is the boogeyman version of this, where you're just trying to get it to math out. And I'm convinced there is a world where you do get it to math out, but you have the alignment of the folks who are bought into your vision for a better way to do this.
I was on the PE side for a couple years, and what I noticed is that a lot of the fractional firms we used would come in and they would try to jam whatever business type it was into one model. And it's like, this is a SaaS model. That's a marketplace. I get it. The math works in this model, but you're not taking time to learn us and our business model. So I think even if you're brought in by an Insight Partners or a JMI, and they say, we want you to work with all our portfolio companies, you have to intimately get to know how it makes money and the cost, because the ultimate customer on the end of it is the CFO or the head of accounting there, and they're going to be you don't really understand how this works. So I think just not trying to fit everybody into a box goes a long way.
All right, last question for CJ. Looking back, what 3 things would you have done differently when you started your podcast? If you don't have 3, it can be 2.
No, I would have leaned into video sooner. So YouTube actually gets more hits than Apple and Spotify now, if you look at it on a channel basis. I would have started doing solo episodes on my own rather than just interviews. So now I'm doing 2 interviews a week and 1 solo episode. I think at the end of the day, I want people to come and hang out with me, and then the guest is awesome to bring into the fold too. But I think the all good podcasts that I listen to, and it took me a while to realize this, is I think of them as like a friend in a way that like I'm just gonna put on because it's comfortable to have in the background, or I enjoy listening to them or hearing their take. And I approached it at first like I just gotta get big name guests, and it's like that'll come over time. And then I think the third thing I would tell myself is just like be consistent about it and like know that it's a linear game, it's a base hit game, and most people don't make it. I think it's like 85% of people don't make it past 6 episodes. And so if you can get past that, like you're already in rare air.
Thank you. All right, how are we doing on time? Wrap things up? Okay. Let's give a round of applause for Jason and CJ. Thank you both.